Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Options Mentor. Well, quite a week we had this week with nothing but bad news, not one stitch of good news for the market. Still Middle East conflict, every inflation number above what the market expected, literally everything, GDP below what they wanted. Every data point was bearish. And what do you think we'd do with that? Well, it's only natural. You'd go to all-time highs, right? And that's exactly what we did. Excuse me. So you see here we are, all-time highs based on what I have no idea. The rate cuts aren't coming till at least September. They thought they were going to get three. Now they're only going to get two. Oh, by the way, that was another thing, negative for the market. But it's kind of hard to say what you're going to do from here when a complete full plate of negative news makes you go to all-time highs. You got to wonder what's going on. I find it quite odd, but I do think if you just look at this, we got this gap here. We got all kinds of up moves, of course, as I just described. It seems to me that we're due for a little cooling off. Now, one thing that could be playing a part into this, well, will be anyway, is tomorrow, Monday, June 30th, will be the end of the quarter. So many times you can see some strange trades as big funds try to, add stocks to say they were in or get out of stocks so they could say they're out, whatever it may be. So you can see some peculiar movement in the market on the end of a quarter as well as the beginning of the quarter. You can see also here, I'm showing you VIX has tapered off drastically. So I think going into this week, it's also a holiday shortened week. We have the 4th of July on Friday, and I believe we're closing early, like 1 Eastern, I believe, on Thursday, and then closed on Friday. Of course, it's also Saturday and Sunday. So a short week. We also have the non-farm payrolls. They will be on Thursday, so they can get those in, even though they're normally the first Friday of the month. Of course, close that Friday. So they'll have the non-farm payrolls, which is usually a pretty big report, and a PMI tomorrow. So we've got some news coming. I don't know what the effect it'll be because we can't tell if it's going to be good or bad. We don't know what the market thinks because it doesn't really matter if it's good or bad. The last week, we just wanted to go higher. And then we had this peculiar thing happen also in the afternoon there on Friday where we came down, which was totally reasonable, and then for some reason shot up at the end. I'm guessing there may have been some buying for the end of the quarter, window dressing already, or you could have seen some short covering. But I think that could have been part of what drove the whole up move towards the end was the short covering because reasonable people wouldn't think you'd go to all-time highs based on bad data, but we did. So when it kept going up, of course, shorts have to buy stocks to cover their losses or cover their position so they quit losing. And whenever you buy, of course, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, it makes it keep going up. But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that is exhausted after what we saw on Friday. So that leads us coming into this week with the VIX down around 16, just over. Happy days are here again. What would be to worry about? So anyway, what I'm thinking about this week, so far, we'll have to see how tomorrow goes. If we have a good sell-off at the beginning or something and volatility goes spiking, well, then I probably wouldn't do this trade. Well, certainly wouldn't do this trade. But if we come into tomorrow and we keep this volatility level, I think it may be, something like a calendar may be in season, even though it's not the most ideal season. I like, 15 and under for calendars, but we're getting close. And you get a lot of width with this. If you use call calendars, you get a lot more width than with put calendars because calls are in such demand here in a bull market. But if you look at this, now we have to go, well, 100 points above the old um, all-time highs, all the way up to 62.48 for you to even have to adjust on the upside if you set it up like this. And then you've got about 100 points of down move that you could do. Now, the way I set this up is I put this call calendar on about 20 points below where we're trading. Now, a lot of times that is how I like to trade these in this new environment where call calendars are so flat to the upside. And we've been many times over the last few years in such crazy, heights in the market. that it's always nice to have a little more downside room in case even an ounce of reasonableness ever occurs in the market. Um, so that happens. If that happens, you'll have a lot more downside room. Hey, if we want to keep going up, you've still got a decent amount of room also, and you can always adjust to whatever you need to do. So I think a calendar, if we have this environment, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 10, whatever contracts, I wouldn't go too big. Um, of course, do this on paper if you've never done a calendar. But if you're well seasoned with these and understand them, you could maybe undertake a calendar this week. But I would definitely not do it huge. There's just too much going on with a shortened week. We got a long weekend. You know how weekends are around here. Anything can happen. And we got all these reports. So there's a lot of things there that could upset the apple cart. So be careful with it. Don't get too big. But I do think a calendar looks attractive this week. Of course, you've been watching my channel. You could certainly do double diagonals if you want a little more room, to give you a little more room than this calendar will. But I think it's something that's kind of interesting if by midday Monday we're still in this vol range. Now, like I said, if things get out of whack, we're up 18, 19, 20 or something on the VIX, then I'd be looking at the double diagonal again. If we're here or go lower, definitely be looking at a calendar. So that is my idea for this week. Like I said, make sure you trade on paper if you've never done these before, and make sure it's right for you, of course. So that's what I have this week for you folks. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Check out all the links in my description of this video so you can hang out with me every trading day. And I will be back with you next Sunday with another installment of the Options Mentor. I'm very interested to see where we are by then. Very interested to see if just any amount of sanity comes into the market this week and we come back down to reasonable levels. We'll see if that happens. All right. I will talk with you next Sunday. Have a great weekend and have a great week, folks. Bye-bye.